Tonight, two teenagers die after attending a dance music gig. Police were called to the SWG3 venue in Glasgow and are still investigating what may have led to the deaths of two 18-year-olds.
Also making the headlines, more racism in Scottish cricket. A former international player says he was racially abused at the weekend while working as an umpire.
Shocked, hurt. I just felt like I hope that the ground can swallow me up, but I just felt so embarrassed.
Fighting back, a Scottish woman who received death threats after exposing a global cryptocurrency scam tells us she hopes a legal test case will help victims and secure justice.
And in sports, Brendan Rodgers challenges Matt O'Reilly to score more goals as the champions make it 2 wins from 2 in the Premiership.
I'm Courtney Cameron in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Two teenagers have lost their lives within hours of each other after attending a DJ set in Glasgow on Saturday. Both 18-year-old men died in hospital after taking unwell following the event.
Police are now investigating whether the deaths at music venue SWG3 in the York Hill area are linked and whether drugs may have been involved. Well, Selina Jackson is there for us tonight. Selina, what do we know so far?
Well, the details around exactly what happened at SWG3, which is just at the end of this street behind me, are still emerging. What we do know, though, is that both men had been at a set by DJ Ben Hemsley here on Saturday. Now, that event finished around 10 o'clock and there was then an after party which went on until the next morning. The first man took unwell at Croy railway station in North Lanarkshire late on Saturday night, but he passed away shortly after. Then, in the early hours of Sunday, the second man fell ill here. He also died in hospital.
And police are trying to find out whether drugs could have played a part.
Yes, they say one of the scenarios they're looking into is whether a substance was involved and also whether these two incidents are linked. Now, we've been speaking to a drugs charity which has stressed there's no evidence yet to confirm that's the case, but it does say in general over the last decade drug purity has been increasing, which carries with it a higher risk of overdose.
The unregulated drug market is dynamic and there is an increase in the presence of synthetic stimulant drugs called cathinones on the market currently. Drugs can be sold without us knowing what's actually in them. They could be much higher purity than we expect. So while the drugs market is illegal, there's no accountability, there's no regulation. We really need to think seriously about regulating drugs.
Well, in the meantime, a spokesperson for SWG3 says they're absolutely devastated by this news and that they'll continue to assist police with their inquiries.
All right, many thanks, Selina. A former Scottish international cricketer who says he was racially abused at the weekend has told STV News he'd consider walking away from the game if a similar incident happens again. Majid Haq was umpiring a club match when he says an offensive term about Pakistani people was used to describe him.
Majid was one of the whistleblowers who previously criticised the sport's governing body, Cricket Scotland. That led to an investigation which found it to be institutionally racist. He's spoken exclusively to our reporter, Ollie Dickinson.
I was shocked, hurt. I just felt like I hope the ground can swallow me up, but I just felt so embarrassed. And just like, this was actually somebody who I've known probably for the last 25 years and met probably twice a season. And he's also been involved in Asian-dominated clubs in Glasgow. So for me, it was shocking.
What support have you had since Saturday? Have people reached out to you? How have you felt the cricket community has reacted?
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet, to be honest. I had a few people. Obviously, Amar's been amazing, Paul Reddish, Kazim, my cousin Omar, just the usual people who have been there, no one really out with. There's been a couple of people from Cricket Scotland, had a couple of messages, but in the main it's been pretty silent.
Paint a picture for me of your life since you and others publicly called for change 12 months ago. What has your life been like since then?
Yeah, it's been very difficult for me, day-to-day life, family. There's obviously social media has been full of abuse.
I mean, that abuse that you're referencing, it's deeply racist, and above that, deeply personal, deeply cruel. It's said with intent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's said with intent. Obviously, you say there's racist, anti-Muslim, anti-Pakistani, a lot of the stuff as well. So it's been obviously against my religion, which is ridiculous for that to go on.
How difficult has that made your life?
Yeah, it's been very difficult, very difficult. Obviously, this time last year, we thought things might be progressing, but we've actually gone backwards.
You mentioned there your passion for umpiring. Everyone knows your passion for cricket. Do incidents like this make you want to walk away from the sport you love?
Yeah, it does, definitely. Obviously, as I said, £40 for standing 7-8 hours and getting abuse is not really, what was the point? So for me, sometimes you do think, but then the other time as well, you need to stand up and be strong.
Given your experiences over the last 12 months, if a youngster from a minority ethnic background came to you and said, I'm thinking about getting involved in cricket, could you in good conscience tell them that Scotland was the right place to be involved in cricket at the moment?
No, I can't say that they'd be the right place to be involved. Obviously, this is not for me. I can't say 100% get involved in cricket is amazing. You get the opportunities as white players would, or like just in terms of general being appreciated and looked after and everything. I think there's a long way to go in that.
Well, Ollie joins us now. So Ollie, Majid Haq sounds, unsurprisingly, angry and frustrated.
Yeah, those are the words I'd use, John, along with deeply hurt and deeply upset by what he says happened. Now, we can't go into too much detail because a 63-year-old man is due to appear in court after being arrested and charged in connection with the alleged incident. In response, Cricket Scotland have said that it condemns in the strongest possible terms the behaviour that took place at Greenock on Saturday and that racism has no part in sport or society. Meanwhile, Greenock Cricket Club, which is where the alleged incident took place, have tonight said that they deplore any such conduct and will cooperate fully with any investigation.
Ollie, thank you.
Now, as pupils return to the classroom after the summer break, a leading training centre is working to prevent students who are disengaged with school from falling through the cracks. The Rural and Urban Training Scheme, or RUTS, in Pennycook helps young people to gain practical skills and qualifications through hands-on activities. Laura Alderman has more.
Leo and Nico have been tinkering with this motorbike for a couple of months now, learning mechanics and new skills at this training centre in Pennycook after school didn't work out for them.
Didn't enjoy it, was never in. But my PSE teacher told me about coming here to work with bikes and that, and I was like, alright, just help me with my confidence and that. I don't know, I was quite shy when I first started coming here.
I wasn't that good with applying or like even sending away forms or even making a CV. Like I really struggled with it. But when I came here, I got a lot of help from the workers here. I want to go into like joinery or just get into a trade. But if I can't do that straight away, then I'd rather just get a job.
For more than 40 years, RUTS has been helping young people overcome barriers and gain qualifications to help them into a job or an apprenticeship.
The things that we offer to young people and a difference for the school as well. So saying to kids, what, you're going to come along and you're going to fix motorbikes, you're going to ride motorbikes, you're going to fix bicycles, we're going to go mountain biking, or we're going to do activities around sort of non-contact boxing and things. That's a great catch for the young people, yeah. They get treated as adults when they're here, so suddenly they become into this kind of, although we gently move them into a workplace. A lot of them are maybe disengaged from school, and some of them over a few years, and it just means that type of learning hasn't worked for them. It's not that difficult for education if it's done in the right kind of way that suits them.
With pupils set to return to the classroom this week, RUTS works with schools to reach out to students.
A lot of the young people that join us, maybe they've not attended school so much, or they're just not interested in school, but it doesn't mean to say they're not capable. They've got many, many skills that they can offer. There is no wrong path, and there's great opportunities. And say RUTS can really help young people to gain something where they may think, I can't do anything, or I've not achieved anything at school. You absolutely can. So always aim high, you'll get there.
And help is on hand to navigate those next steps into all kinds of careers. Laura Alderman, STV News, Pennycook.
RAF fighter jets have been scrambled to intercept 2 Russian bombers travelling north of the Shetland Isles. The Typhoon aircraft took off from RAF Lossiemouth in Murray in the early hours of this morning. Well, Nicola McCally is outside the base tonight. So, Nicola, what details do you have?
Well, that's right, John. It was the early hours of this morning when these 2 Russian maritime reconnaissance aircraft, basically submarine spotters, were seen entering NATO airspace. Now, the alarm was raised here. Pilots and ground crew sprung into action, and within a matter of minutes, 2 Tornado jets were on their way up to the north of the Shetland Islands, where they came across these Russian planes and basically were ready to intercept any threat there. A Voyager aircraft was also sent to the scene, a much larger aircraft. This was basically to refuel the Typhoons, to enable them to stay in the area for as long as was necessary.
And Nicola, is this something that the airbase is used to?
Well, yes and no. It does happen. I wouldn't say it's commonplace. It does happen from time to time, but it's always noteworthy. Now, RAF Lossiemouth is one of 2 air bases in the UK that has QRA, that's Quick Reaction Alert. That basically means that pilots and the relevant crew are on standby 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right throughout the year to respond to this type of threat. And in fact, they're well practiced because just last week, 2 squadrons came back from Estonia. They had been performing NATO air policing over there. And during that time, they performed more than 50 of these interceptions against Russian aircraft. So today, we understand the Russian aircraft were in the NATO airspace for around 2 hours. Then they departed. The RAF aircraft came back here to Murray, and of course the RAF are saying this just demonstrates the capability for them to respond to these kind of threats whenever is needed.
Nicola in Murray, thank you.
A Scottish woman who received death threats after exposing a global cryptocurrency scam hopes a legal test case will help victims heal and secure justice. Jennifer McAdam, who lost thousands to the Onecoin Ponzi scheme, has described the last 7 years for herself and others as financial hell.
The campaigner, who has also written about her experience, says she is relieved lawyers are now in place to launch a class action on behalf of those whose lives have been shattered. Here's our chief reporter, Sharon Frew.
It's a book set to be turned into a Hollywood film, but Jennifer McAdam's story has taken another sinister twist. Celebrations to mark her writing achievements are on hold due to ongoing attempts to silence this whistleblower.
Given the previous threats, which have been death threats and sexual violence threats, since exposing Onecoin, I was advised to cancel all events. It can be terrorising at times, but it makes me more determined to continue.
This is the mastermind behind Onecoin, the so-called crypto queen, Ruja Ignatova, who is on the FBI's 10 most wanted list.
This network was created to become and to fuel the growth of Onecoin, which I strongly believe will be the #1 cryptocurrency worldwide.
Bulgarian-born Ignatova managed to persuade investors around the world to part with an estimated £4 billion. Then she disappeared. In the UK alone, it's believed 70,000 people bought Onecoin packages. For Jennifer and her family and friends, the loss was around £250,000.
It's been 7 years of hell battling for justice for victims, and finally today I can actually announce that we now have law representation for the Onecoin victim support group members in a group class action.
In Bulgaria, Onecoin is still trading, and it denies any suggestions the scheme is a scam. In the United States, Ruja Ignatova's brother was arrested, and he accepted a plea deal after admitting multiple financial crimes.
Rouge Ignatova, what she created, should get in at the right time as digital currency, as Bitcoin was growing. It went like wildfire. Thank God for America, thank God for the USA and Germany and other countries round about the world who have started making arrests. UK, nothing.
The support group started by Jennifer now has 10,000 members worldwide. Many share their experiences in her book.
It just breaks my heart that my family are now seeing that, because I hid it all from them for years, and I can't now. Feels as though we're stuck in a financial hell, and it is a nightmare. But I won't let them get me down. I'll keep going.
Sharon Frew, STV News.
The Cycling World Championships, the biggest cycling event in history, have been declared a huge success after an estimated 1 million spectators turned out to catch some of the action.
But as the barriers come down after 11 days of competition, it's Glasgow that's being celebrated for showcasing international sport, as Caitlin Hutchison reports.
World champions.
It's given us twists, turns, tricks, and even tumbles.
A big crash.
But after a bumper 11 days of cycling action, it's time for the athletes to pack up and the barriers to come down.
Should Scotland off its best? It's a pity the weather didn't play ball.
Total surprise. This is our first time in Scotland altogether. It added a layer of excitement to it. It did, we had to think on the fly a little bit on how to navigate the city.
I travel in and out by bus, so there was a wee bit of a longer walk in the morning getting into the city centre, but it was fine.
I was able to enjoy seeing how the road passed most of the time, so yeah, it was fun.
Thousands of cyclists from more than 120 countries took part in events, bringing together professional athletes and amateurs alike. Not to mention the estimated 1 million fans that flocked to venues and lined routes up and down the country.
It was really great to see everybody come out, not just for the big marquee events like the road races, but also all around Scotland. So we really were able to see how the people of Scotland supported this event, and I think it really did capture the imagination.
Over the course of the 11-day mega event, police say they had thousands of interactions with spectators, locals, protesters and cyclists. A total of 9 people were arrested, and it's being hailed a huge success by officials.
This is the first time that Glasgow, or indeed Scotland, have actually hosted a World Championships, a world sporting event, and frankly we've smashed it. I think the organisers, the UCI, the World Cycling Body's expectations, and probably even our own expectations have been exceeded.
The UCI Cycling World Championships may have wrapped up for now, but with France 2027 already in the pipeline and plans for even more disciplines, there's plenty still to come. Caitlin Hutchison, STV News, Glasgow.
Other stories in the West, and night buses will continue in Glasgow after First and the Guilds reached an agreement to operate 9 routes across the city. The announcement comes just a week before First Glasgow was set to end all of its night services in the area. The firm has now teamed up with McGill's to operate a reduced number of early hours routes. The Celtic player Alexandre Bernabe has been fined nearly £2,000 after pleading guilty to drink driving. He was more than twice over the limit in Glasgow city centre last August. Bernabe has also been disqualified for driving for 12 months. Summerlee Museum of Scottish Industrial Life is due to be transformed after receiving a significant funding boost. The facility in Coatbridge is set to get £3.4 million from the lottery. As part of the plans, the team will build a new miners' village, welfare hall and learning complex. Susan Ripple reports.
I sing a song, a slumber song.
It's a place where you can go back in time, immersing yourself in Scotland's industrial past. And it's popular with visitors of all ages.
It's like the stuff inside, and it's fascinating about the history.
We can spend up to 6 hours here. We kind of work our way down and up, so we do the museum first and come down this way, and then they do the park last because they get a bit excited and things like that. But it's like walking through history. The kids love it. I feel like we learn something new every time we come.
I like coming here because the park and because the museum, and I like the gift shop, and I just like everything here. It's my favourite place to come to.
and now Summerlee Museum of Scottish Industrial Life in Coatbridge will be expanded further. It's set to receive £3.4 million from the Heritage Fund.
I think firstly people will be able to spend a whole day here because the village and the welfare hall and the learning landscape and the improved boat shed will give them more things to do, more things to enjoy. But also I think what they'll take away is the impact that industry has had in this area in the central belt of Scotland, because we intend to take our story up until the 1990s and the end of Ravenscraig, which is the start of deindustrialisation. So it's a very pivotal part of the story of Lanarkshire.
We need more about what's happened from the 80s onwards, what happened to the industrial places in Scotland, the communities, what happened to them, where did the workforce go. So it's quite an exciting opportunity to start building on this.
The Miners' Village is one of the main attractions here. Each cottage is themed to a different decade. I'm currently in the 1960s house, and it's one of the areas that will be expanded under this investment. The team will use the next 18 months to plan the transformation, but it'll take around 4 years before all the work is complete.
This area has a very rich heritage, and Summerlee tells the story of the people and the industry. We're really pleased that thanks to National Lottery players, we're able to support the development of these proposals to enlarge it and offer an even better visitor experience.
The whole development will cost £6.4 million, so the team will need a further £3 million to complete the plans. But they're hopeful they will receive it and make this place even more of an experience for those who live locally and beyond. Susan Ripple, STV News, Coatbridge.
Now Rahman is here with tonight's sport.
Thanks very much, John. Good evening to you all. Brendan Rodgers says he's challenged Matt O'Reilly to score more goals, and the Celtic manager is confident he can develop the midfielder and take his game to the next level. O'Reilly found the net in the win against Aberdeen yesterday, and Rodgers says he's been impressed with the 22-year-old's high standards.
Matt O'Reilly scored Celtic's third at Pittodrie yesterday to make sure the champions travel back to Glasgow with all 3 points. The midfielder also found the net on the opening day of the campaign. That's already half his tally from last season, when he scored 4 goals from 52 games.
When I looked at his numbers and everything else, I think I said to him, you need to score more goals. It was a wee bit like Jamesy Forrest when I came in. He didn't score enough for the talent. And I'm looking at Matt from last season. I think his first goal was January. You can't have that talent and be waiting that long, but it's all about arriving in the areas and just finding the composure to finish.
Leila Abada and Kyogo Furuhashi were also on the score sheet as the champions made it 2 wins from 2, and there's a belief within the dressing room the team will get stronger and stronger.
We want to come here and beat what's in front of us, so excellent for that standpoint, and then just week by week the football will get even more slick, boys will get fitter, stronger, and then we just continue for there. But a brilliant start in terms of 2 wins for 2. Really difficult away game, and you come away with 3 points is excellent. You got to be together, especially in a Celtic team. Everyone's trying to beat you, and you have to have that sort of siege mentality. So to see that 2 games into the season is outstanding, but that's something that we'll progress and get better at even as the season goes on.
Rio Hitati and Cameron Carter-Vickers sustained calf and hamstring injuries respectively. Brendan Rodgers is hopeful they won't be too bad.
Connor Golson and Ryan Jack have returned to the Rangers squad for the second leg of the club's Champions League third-round qualifier against Servette tomorrow night. Beale's players trained at Auchenhowie today. Golson and Jack were both rested at the weekend but are now available. The Ibrox side, who have a 2-1 lead from the first leg, go into the match in Geneva on the back of a 4-0 win over Livingston. Glasgow City head coach Leanne Ross says she was pleased with her team's start to the new season as they began the defence of their title with a 3-0 win over Hibernian. Hayley Lauder with the pick of the goals for the champions 15 minutes from time. City are away to Partick Thistle this weekend. Rugby, and Gregor Townsend says he has decisions to make over 4 positions as he prepares to name his final squad for the Rugby World Cup. Scotland ran tournament host France close in the third warm-up match in St Etienne on Saturday. Cal Stein scored 2 tries, but a late Thomas Ramos penalty secured a 3-point victory for the hosts. Townsend will reveal his 33-man squad for the tournament on Wednesday. And one final piece of tennis news. Andy Murray has returned to Great Britain's Davis Cup team for the ties next month. That's all sport from me tonight, folks.
Thanks, Raman. And now Sean's here with the weather forecast.
It's looking like a chilly one. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. Look at this. We've got a little area of high pressure crossing the country in the next couple of days, something we've not seen for a while, and of course just in time for the schools heading back, well, at least most of them. Low pressure coming in from the Atlantic in time for the weekend, so it's not that typical sort of the schools are back, so the weather's going to turn better. It will be a wee bit better towards the end of the week before wet and windy weather returns just in time for the weekend. Now, we've seen quite a few heavy showers bubbling up once again today, particularly across the Highlands and Argyll and Butte, but most of those showers easing. Temperatures 12 or 13 degrees overnight, should be mostly dry with clear spells. Now, tomorrow morning, a dry start today, brighter sunny spells before we start to see some heavy showers developing. Today, the worst of them have been across northwestern areas, but I think tomorrow most frequent and heaviest ones will be across lights of North Lanarkshire into Glasgow, South Lanarkshire and also parts of Ayrshire. But in between the showers, not feeling too bad, 20 or 21 degrees Celsius. Now, talking of Argyll and Butte, it's back to school for us tomorrow. Well, it should be a dry start to the day, a few showers bubbling up through the afternoons, possibility of getting caught out in a wee shower if you're heading home. Of course, elsewhere, many of us getting an extra day, heading back on the Wednesday. Plenty of dry and bright weather, and in Ayrshire, you get to enjoy that brighter weather, of course, Thursday and Friday before heading back to school next week. But yes, turning wet and windy through the weekend. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, the sound of bagpipes filled Glasgow streets this afternoon as more than 100 pipers marched through the city.
They made their way from Partick in the West End to the city's Kelvin Grove Art Gallery as part of the Piping Live Festival. People of all ages and backgrounds made up the big band.
Oh, it's been brilliant. It's great being in a big band together and just being a big community in piping, which is fun. And it's really patriotic for me and stuff. And I enjoy playing it. So
people speak to me like I'm not here because I'm in a chair. And when I'm playing my pipes, people listen to me for my music. So it's totally breaking down barriers and showing that just because you've got a disability, bring out the ability, you know.
So plenty of piping to come.
Indeed, in the World Championships this coming weekend. From all of us here, thank you for watching. Have a good night.
Good night.